That day, Hayato and his friends along with Karen went on a trip to the beach. Sakura approached Hayato and asked about Karen's swimsuit. Hayato said it looked great on her. Miharu and Sakura had picked it out for her the day before. Hayato then apologized to Miharu for troubling her, but Miharu was actually happy because she was invited on the trip as well. Hayato couldn't help but be mesmerized by Miharu's attractiveness. Seeing Hayato staring at Miharu, Sakura immediately clung to him. Emil, annoyed by this, told Sakura to get away from Hayato. However, Sakura just teased her and tossed a box at her. Then she grabbed Hayato's hand and pulled him toward the beach to play in the water together. Emil was irritated as she watched how close Hayato and Sakura were. She thought that if only she had worn a bikini like the others, things might have been different. Claire then commented to Emil that Hayato and Sakura seemed to be having fun and that it was a shame Emil couldn't join them in the water. She also told Emil to just relax and not be shy. Emil accused Claire of deliberately flaunting her chest in front of Hayato. Claire instinctively covered her chest and told Emil to stop making things up. Lady then scolded Emil, telling her to be more respectful toward Claire. Meanwhile, Miharu and Karen were dipping their feet in the water, while Reiichia was playfully messing with Fritz. They all seemed to be having a great time together. Sakura asked Hayato if it was time to eat, mentioning that she had brought a homemade meal. She then eagerly prepared the food she had brought. Emil, watching Sakura cling to Hayato, said she was sick of seeing how Sakura acted around him. She even suspected that Sakura had joined Little Garden just to get close to Hayato. To Emil's surprise, Sakura admitted it outright. She even declared that when she wasn't performing on stage, she was Hayato's personal idol. Emil, even more annoyed, said she wouldn't accept that. Sakura then asked if Emil was really just Hayato's friend. Emil assumed that Sakura had figured out she was actually a girl, but to her surprise, Sakura thought Emil was a boy who had a thing for other guys. Sakura then mentioned that there were rumors going around about Hayato and Emil being an item, and that people were saying they were often seen kissing, even though they were both guys. Emil quickly retorted, saying that she and Hayato had been together since their time in Gutenberg and that they were childhood friends. Sakura then said she was the same. Emil countered, pointing out that Sakura had only spent one day with Hayato. Offended, Sakura argued that even if it was just for one day, Hayato was still her childhood friend. Hearing their argument, Karen suddenly spoke up, saying that since she had been with Hayato since birth, that made her the closest childhood friend. In the end, they all enjoyed the meal together. Hayato thanked Sakura, and Sakura asked if he liked the food. Karen said it was delicious, but Emil only called it decent. Reiichia and Fritz then invited Hayato and the others to play beach volleyball. Hayato and Emil agreed to take on Reiichia and Fritz in a match. Sakura cheered for Hayato loudly. Reiichia served the ball with incredible speed, making it impossible to catch. Emil then asked if it was okay to use energy during the game. Reiichia said there was no problem with that. Emil then prepared to use her energy. At that point, the match no longer looked like a game of volleyball, but rather a battle of strength between them. Meanwhile, Erika suddenly approached Claire and asked for permission to apply sunscreen to the front of her body. However, Lady quickly grabbed the sunscreen and said she wanted to do it instead. They both started applying sunscreen to Claire's thighs, then began arguing over who got to apply it to her front. Seeing their commotion, Claire decided she didn't want either of them applying sunscreen on her. Back in the game, Reiichia sent a powerful shot that knocked Emil down. The ball continued flying at an incredible speed, heading straight for Claire. Hayato jumped to catch it, but instead he crashed into Claire and his face landed directly on her chest. Emil ran over, surprised, and asked what exactly Hayato was doing. Suddenly, a helicopter landed on the beach bearing the emblem of Warslorn Incorporated. It turned out that the helicopter was carrying Judal, Claire's older brother and the CEO of Warslorn. Judal greeted Claire and mentioned that her swimsuit suited her very well. Claire told him there was no need for flattery and asked what business had brought him here in such a flashy manner. Judal said he couldn't wait to see Claire and meet the future brave soldiers of Warslorn. Judal immediately recognized Hayato, mentioning that Hayato's compatibility score had already exceeded Claire's even before joining Little Garden. He called Hayato the hope of Little Garden and the one who possessed the blood of a god. Judal also recognized Emil and commented that the others also held great potential. Then Judal invited Claire to return to Little Garden with him on the helicopter. Claire suspected something was off but told everyone not to worry about her. The next day, back at Little Garden, Emil and Hayato were together. Emil admitted that she was curious about what Judal's real reason for coming was. Suddenly, their phones rang. Claire had sent them a message. summoning them to the student council room immediately. In the student council room, Claire explained an upcoming operation to eradicate the savage. She stated that this mission was a joint operation under the United Nations, also referred to as the Peacekeeping Force. Erika mentioned that Little Garden would send selected members to the field. Fritz then asked why he and Raitia had been called. Claire announced that Fritz and Raitia had officially been chosen for the selection and would participate in the operation. Raitia was shocked. She hadn't expected that she and Fritz would make it. Overjoyed, she even started jumping around excitedly as she walked through the hallway. As everyone else left, Hayato was suddenly summoned by Judal. Hayato asked if Judal needed something from him. Judal requested that Hayato take some time to talk with him. Hayato couldn't refuse. Meanwhile, Emil noticed that Hayato was no longer behind her. Judal then asked Hayato if he knew the real power source of Little Garden. Hayato answered that it was a nuclear fusion reactor, but Judal said that was only the exterior explanation. He then invited Hayato to another location, revealing that Little Garden required a massive amount of energy for all its research and nuclear fusion alone wasn't enough. Judal finally revealed the true energy source powering Little Garden. They entered a secret room where a girl was sleeping, like a princess from a fairy tale. Judal introduced her as Lisa, the core energy source of Little Garden and its supreme leader. Lisa was a slayer as well as the first artificial variant ever created. Her full name was Harvey Lisa, which meant she was Judal and Claire's younger sister. Suddenly, Claire burst into the room, pointing a gun at Judal. She demanded to know why Judal had brought Hayato there. Judal simply responded by questioning why Claire would point a dangerous weapon at her own older brother. He even joked that if Lisa saw her, she would be shocked to see her tomboyish older sister. Claire, frustrated, demanded a proper answer. Judal explained that Hayato was the future, the one who would become the greatest slayer in Warslarn. However, there was something in Little Garden that had to be protected, something powerful enough to maintain the balance of the world, and Hayato needed to know about it. Claire immediately fired a shot, angrily telling Judal not to refer to her younger sister as if she were an object. Judal quickly apologized, and then admitted that there was another reason he had brought Hayato here. Judal revealed that Hayato possessed the blood of a god, and suggested that perhaps he could awaken Lisa. Claire was confused by Judal's words. Judal then dramatically declared that it was time for the sleeping princess to wake up and told Hayato to kiss Lisa to wake her. Hayato was utterly shocked. Claire pointed her gun at Judal again, warning him to stop saying such nonsense. Judal laughed, saying he was just joking, that a kiss was simply the last resort. Judal said that for now, Hayato needed to touch the capsule and release his energy. He then asked Hayato to give it a try. Hayato glanced at Claire, and she gave him a wink, signaling her approval. Hayato placed his hand on the capsule and a red light began to glow. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to wake her up. Judal realized he had been too hasty and mentioned that as long as Vitaly was alive, she would definitely target Lisa. He revealed that there was a history between him and Vitaly and that she had to be captured. That was why he wanted to discuss things with his subordinate, the Hunter. Judal then ended the conversation just as Claire was about to say something to him. Instead, he told her to have a discussion with Hayato in front of Lisa. Claire asked why she needed to do that, and Judal explained that if a talented slayer became the heir to the Harvey family, he would gladly accept it. Claire was irritated by Judal's words and wondered what he meant by that. Judal laughed, saying he was just joking, but Claire's reaction made it even more amusing. With that, Judal left them alone. Hayato remained silent. Claire asked why he wasn't asking her anything. Hayato responded that Claire's face showed she wasn't in the mood to be questioned. Claire told him that she would explain everything when the time was right. She also ordered him to forget everything he had seen and act as if none of it had ever happened. Hayato obeyed her command. Later, Claire gathered her team to carry out a mission. She displayed a map showing an area near Tian Quan City in the Kingdom of Qin, where an estimated 50 Savage were located. Erika mentioned that their shelter barracks in Tian Quan City happened to be Shumei's hometown, so if they needed guidance, Shumei could lead them. Claire warned that there was a possibility that the hunter they had encountered before would appear again during the mission. Lidi added that the reason they had all been chosen for this mission was that they had previously fought against those hunters. Since they already knew their enemies, handling them would be easier. This was Judal's suggestion. Emil then asked if that meant Lisa wasn't the one who selected the members for this mission. Erika explained that Judal was the one who recommended this savage extermination operation to the United Nations. The team quickly prepared for the mission. Raitia was still nervous about it, but Fritz tried to calm her down, reminding her that the mission would take place the next day. They followed Erika's lead as they walked. Suddenly, someone started calling out to Emil by the name Emilia. The girl suddenly rushed forward, tackling Emil into a hug. She excitedly said how much she had missed her. Emil, confused, told the girl that she must have mistaken her for someone else. However, the girl insisted that even though Emil was dressed as a boy, she still recognized her. She even called Emil Your Highness. Emil quickly covered her mouth. Hayato, now even more curious, asked what the girl meant by Your Highness. The girl then turned to Hayato and asked who he was. Hayato simply introduced himself as Emil's classmate. Emil then asked the girl to introduce herself to Hayato properly. The girl introduced herself as Claudia from Gutenberg, part of the Britannian Federation and a member of the Britannian Slayer Alliance. She was also Emil's childhood friend. After saying that, Claudia spat to the side, completely ignoring Hayato's extended hand for a handshake. Claudia then urged Emil to return to Gutenberg, saying that everyone had been waiting for her, the Hidden Princess. Hayato, even more intrigued, asked what she meant by Hidden Princess. Emil finally admitted that she had kept her real name a secret for 10 years. Her real name was Emilia Gutenberg, meaning she was a princess of the Gutenberg Kingdom. Hayato was shocked to learn that Emil was actually royalty. Emil apologized for keeping it a secret. Though she was a third-generation princess, it was still a significant revelation. Claudia insisted that Emil return to Gutenberg after the mission was complete. However, Emil refused, saying she had already decided not to go back. Claudia expressed how lonely she had been without Emil all this time. She then hugged Emil tightly and confessed that she loved her deeply, pleading with Emil to come home for her sake. And Emil immediately let go of Claudia and quickly wrapped her arms around Hayato, declaring that she loved him far more than Claudia did, which was why she would never return to Gutenberg. Claudia, upon hearing this, concluded that it was all Hayato's fault. Frustrated, she challenged Hayato to a duel with Emil as the prize. They quickly prepared for the duel in the dojo. Claudia laid out the terms. If she won, Emil would return to Gutenberg, but if Hayato emerged victorious, Emil would remain in Little Garden. Hayato pointed out that he and Emil had a mission tomorrow and that he didn't even know who owned the dojo. However, Shumei's younger sister assured him that Shumei had already explained this situation and that the dojo belonged to her family. Emil cheered Hayato on, encouraging him to win for her sake. Claudia explained that the match would be a single round and the first to land a hit would be the winner. Neither 100 nor energy sense could be used. Hayato chose to fight with the shine, while Claudia opted for a flail. She scoffed at Hayato's choice of weapon, underestimating him. Claudia spun her flail and attacked first, but Hayato easily deflected the strike. Claudia smirked and said that was just the beginning. She turned to Emil and announced that she would crush Hayato, but was infuriated when Emil simply commented on how cool Hayato looked. Frustrated, Claudia sped up her flail's rotation and tried to land a hit, but Hayato swiftly dodged her attacks. She closed in and accused Hayato of being a playboy before swinging her flail at full force. Hayato remained focused, waiting for the right moment. As the flail came at him, he skillfully severed the chain with his shine, then struck the iron ball, sending it flying straight into Claudia's head. The match was over. Just as Hayato was about to check on Claudia, Emil suddenly hugged him and showered him with praise. Claudia got back on her feet and insisted that it had only been practice. She demanded a rematch, this time with a best-of-3 format. Emil immediately refused. Claudia then suggested a 5-point system, but Emil rejected that as well. Nearly on the verge of tears, Claudia suggested they switch to a different type of duel. Hearing this, Hayato gently tried to convince Emil to visit Gutenberg, even if just for a little while. However, Emil refused outright, telling Claudia not to dream of taking her back. Claudia, now yelling, declared that she would never give up. Tears welled in her eyes as she turned and ran away. That night, Hayato and Emil took a walk together. Hayato still couldn't believe that Emil was actually a princess. Meanwhile, Emil, feeling hungry, excitedly said she wanted to buy some fried Xiao Longbao. However, neither of them noticed that a male hunter, Krovan, who had previously appeared in Zui, had spotted them and was watching from a distance. That day, Shumei gathered Hayato and the others to review their mission once again. She explained that each team would be transported to their designated positions by helicopter. They would spend the night eliminating any savage they encountered and return to base by 5 in the afternoon the next day. Emil asked why she had to be on the same team as Claudia. Claudia, on the other hand, said it was an honor to be teamed up with Emil. She even stated that she and Emil were destined to be together, which annoyed Emil. Suddenly, Claudia turned to Hayato and told him that what had happened yesterday was just playing around, but today was the real deal. She declared that during this mission, she would show him just how amazing she was. Hayato responded that Claudia was the one who had started everything, not him. Claire then spoke up, saying she understood why Claudia wanted to take Emil back to her homeland. However, Emil was the core strength of Little Garden and also her dear friend. Claire reassured Emil that if she wished to stay in Little Garden, everyone would support her with all their might. Claudia asked why Claire was only saying this now. Claire replied that from now on they would fight together so that Claudia could truly understand her thoughts. After hearing that, Claudia finally accepted the decision. Lidi, Fritz, and Reitia were assigned to a different unit from Hayato. They were part of Team F. Before their departure, they stopped by to greet him. Reitia mentioned that their team included 2 other girls named Ali and Wendy. Fritz joked that as long as they didn't run into any savages, he could enjoy his harem to the fullest. Annoyed, Reitia immediately stomped on his foot. With the helicopters ready, the teams were given the go-ahead to embark on their mission. Claire reminded Shumei that even though she was staying behind, she was still a slayer of Little Garden, and everyone was counting on her support. Claire easily took down the savages she encountered. Emil told Hayato that they couldn't afford to lose either. Just then, Hayato spotted an approaching savage. Claudia seized the opportunity to show off in front of him. She activated her 100 and Emil whispered to Hayato that Claudia just wanted to flaunt her skills, so they should just watch. Claudia wielded her flail weapon. As the savage lunged at her, she spun her flail at high speed and named her attack Tudor Rose, hurling the weighted end directly into the savage's abdomen. She then urged Emil to finish it off, calling it her chance to shine. Emil activated her 100 and with a single strike, neutralized the savage. Claudia cheered and hugged Emil, who was irritated that Claudia kept calling her Emilia. Claudia then smugly asked if she was more useful than Hayato, especially since she and Emil had worked together so well. Emil retorted, wondering if that was the real reason Claudia had let her land the final blow. Claudia was overjoyed. It was her first time teaming up with Emil. Claire commented that Emil and Claudia were like 2 peas in a pod. Erika then reported that aside from the 2 savages in front of them, there were no more enemies detected. Claire reminded the team that their mission had only just begun, and before descending the mountain, they needed to eliminate as many savages as possible. Meanwhile, the 3 hunters were secretly observing the slayers from a distance. Nakri used her binoculars to track their movements and chuckled, saying that both the slayers and the savages were incredibly noisy. Krovan remarked that the slayers were like a pile of treasure. Elsewhere, Ali and Reitia were working together to take down a savage. Lidi's team had only defeated 2 so far, but she felt that Ali and Reitia were using up too much energy when they should be conserving their strength. Fritz agreed, pointing out that they still had a long way to go. So far, the mission was proceeding smoothly, and Claire's team had already taken down 5 savages. Claudia pointed out that Hayato was the only one who hadn't taken down a single savage yet. After a while, Team Claire took a break to have a meal together. Claudia was feeding Emil, and Emil mentioned that Hayato hadn't taken down a single savage yet because Claudia kept cutting in line. Hayato said it was fine and that he didn't mind just attacking or even being used as bait. Emil called Hayato really cool, but Claudia told him to stop acting tough. Erika then informed everyone that there would be light rain that night. Claire said that a drizzle wouldn't be an issue. They still needed to be cautious, especially when using laser weapons. As night fell, Claire instructed the team to split into 2 shifts, taking turns to sleep in 4-hour intervals. The ones who were awake would stand guard and monitor the area. Emil immediately said that she wanted to be with Hayato and insisted that the others sleep first. However, Claire firmly refused to let Emil and Hayato be alone together. She quickly separated them, and Claudia agreed, saying that since Hayato was the only man on the team, he shouldn't be left alone with anyone. Emil argued that she was also a man. Claudia took that as a sign that they should be in the same group, but Emil refused, saying she only wanted to be with Hayato because they were both men. However, Claire rejected Emil's request. Instead, she assigned Emil to guard duty with Erika, which frustrated Emil, who couldn't understand why she wasn't paired with Hayato. Erika told her to hurry up and light the campfire before the rain started. That night, Hayato couldn't sleep and found himself staring at Claire. Suddenly, Claire told him that sleeping well was also part of the mission. If he couldn't even do that, he couldn't be considered a proper slayer. Reluctantly, Hayato listened and tried to sleep while Claudia remained awake. Meanwhile, Emil and Erika successfully lit the campfire. After 4 hours, it was Claire, Claudia, and Hayato's turn to keep watch. Erika reported that there had been light rain earlier, but it had stopped. She also relayed information from headquarters that there were a total of 42 savage in the area, and the actual number might be even higher. Claire advised everyone to be extra careful. Erika then urged Emil to get some rest. Claire and Hayato sat together, gazing at the night sky. Claire remarked on how beautiful the stars looked. Hayato mentioned that Karin also loved stargazing. Claire commented that Hayato seemed really attentive toward his little sister. Hayato explained that it was just the two of them, and since Karin was frail and couldn't go anywhere, he wanted to be there for her. Claire expressed her hope that one day everyone would be able to look at the stars without worry. That was the reason why the Slayers fought. Suddenly, Claudia appeared and apologized for interrupting Claire and Hayato's romantic moment. Claire was confused and asked what Claudia meant. Claudia teasingly compared them to a couple in a romance movie, staring at the stars together. Claire denied the accusation, but Claudia went on to say that she had actually seen a large black figure heading toward the lake. She suspected there might be a savage nearby and suggested that Claire and Hayato go investigate. Claudia said she would stay behind to guard the tents and wake Emil and Erika if anything happened. Claire agreed to the plan. Emil, however, couldn't resist teasing Claire, telling her not to be shy if she wanted to have a romantic date by the lake. She promised not to interrupt. She even encouraged Claire and Hayato to enjoy their time together. Claire, exasperated, told Claudia to stop making things up. Then she quickly asked Hayato to come along, reminding him that this was not a date, but patrol. Hayato hurried after her. Watching them leave, Emil felt satisfied that her plan was going smoothly. She suspected that Claire might have feelings for Hayato as well. If Claire and Hayato fell in love, then maybe, just maybe, Emil would finally be willing to return to Gutenberg. That night, the three hunters were still awake. It seemed like they were the ones controlling the savages in the forest. Claire and Hayato spotted a single savage. Claire tried to contact Claudia, but the communication was broken. Worried that the savage would disappear if they returned, Claire decided they should eliminate it immediately since there was only one. She launched an attack on the savage and ran closer to it, but unfortunately, she slipped on a puddle. The savage was about to strike her, but Hayato swiftly slashed its arm and immediately destroyed its core. The savage was defeated. Hayato admitted that he was startled when Claire suddenly fell. Claire, on the other hand, insisted that she didn't need any help because she could handle herself. However, she still thanked Hayato and said she owed him one. Her clothes were now dirty, and she couldn't return in that state, so she needed to wash them first. Claire and Hayato arrived at the lake. Meanwhile, Emil couldn't sleep because she really wanted to talk to Hayato, even if just for a moment. Suddenly, Claudia, who was sitting near the campfire, called her over to sit with her. Emil approached and asked where Claire and Hayato were. Claudia hesitated before finally revealing that she couldn't bear to tell Emil that Claire and Hayato were on a date at the lake. Emil was shocked to hear that. Back at the lake, Claire removed her clothes and stepped into the water. Hayato asked if the water was cold. Claire replied that the lake wasn't cold because geothermal heat made the water warm, making it easy to clean herself. Emil still couldn't believe that Claire and Hayato were alone together at the lake. Claudia told Emil not to think too much about that womanizing Hayato and instead tried to persuade her to return to Gutenberg with her. However, Emil refused. Even if Claire and Hayato were dating, she wouldn't give up. She wasn't going to go home just because someone took Hayato from her. Claire and Hayato were still at the lake. Claire asked if Hayato had mastered his variant powers. Hayato explained that he could control them during training, but they hadn't activated in a real battle since the fight on Zwei Island. Claire then asked what it felt like when his variant powers activated. Hayato admitted that it was hard to describe, but it felt like his mind was drifting away and time slowed down significantly. Claire pointed out that Lisa must experience the same thing, but she was different from the others since she was designed that way from birth. The savage liquid was injected into her ovary, meaning Lisa had been a variant since birth. Hayato asked if that was also Vitali's doing. Claire clarified that Vitali was just an assistant. The one responsible for the project was Harvey Linus, Claire's mother. Hayato couldn't comprehend how a mother could do such a thing to her own child. Claire explained that her mother once said that winning the war against the gods was her goal. As her mother wished, Lisa showed signs of being a talented slayer even as a child. However, one day she unleashed a forbidden power to save Claire from a savage. Since then, Lisa had remained asleep. Despite being unconscious, her body emitted enough energy to sustain Little Garden. In other words, Lisa was Judal's trump card Warslarn. Claire then revealed that the reason she became the student council president of Little Garden was to keep an eye on Judal's actions. To her, Lisa was not just a tool for their ambitions. She was her beloved little sister. Claire asked if she was being selfish, acting as if she worked for others, when in reality she was doing it for her family. Her little sister, her older brother, and even her mother. She was aware of her responsibilities, but deep down, she admitted that her true motivation was to protect her little sister. Claire asked Hayato for his opinion on whether she had failed as the student council president. Hayato told her that he felt the same way. If his younger sister didn't require medical care, he probably wouldn't have become a slayer. He said that everyone has their own reasons for fighting, whether it's for world peace or justice. But what matters most is their personal reason. That's why he believed Claire wasn't in the wrong. Only after becoming a slayer did he realize that power could bring smiles to people's faces. If his fight was for protecting those smiles, then that power had a purpose, to make the world a happier place where no one gets hurt. Claire was certain that 100 would grant that wish. She stood up and asked Hayato if he would use his dream and strength for Little Garden. Hayato agreed. Suddenly, an emergency call came in. Claire quickly stepped out of the lake, but she slipped and fell right on top of Hayato. Their bodies were pressed together, and Hayato accidentally grabbed Claire's chest. Claire immediately jumped up, asking if he had just seen and touched her chest. Hayato quickly apologized and handed Claire her clothes. Claire told him that someday he would have to take responsibility. Just then, Hayato received an emergency call from Zayed of Squad D. Zayed reported that their squad had been wiped out after being attacked by 3 hunters. He warned everyone to stay alert before the call was abruptly cut off. Claire was certain that these 3 hunters were the same ones who appeared on Zwei Island, which also meant they were responsible for blocking communications. Hayato suggested they return to the camp, worried about Amiel and the others. Suddenly, a distress signal was fired by Fritz. Claire ordered Hayato to return to camp and inform the others while she went to assist Fritz's team. She assured Hayato not to worry about her since, as the student council president of Little Garden, she had a responsibility to help her comrades in need. Meanwhile, Fritz was barely holding on against the hunters. He reassured himself that reinforcements would arrive soon, but Nakri showed no hesitation in attacking him. At that moment, only Lidi remained standing. She declared that she wouldn't fall until help arrived. Krovan then activated his variant mode with limit-out power. Lidi was shocked as she struggled to hold off his attacks, but Krovan eventually overpowered her. He was about to seize Lidi's 100 when a sudden attack was launched in his direction. Claire arrived fully armed. The hunters recognized her immediately. Claire smirked, saying she was flattered that they knew her. She thanked Lidi for holding on until she arrived. Shortly after, Lidi lost consciousness. Claire then asked if they knew Violi. Krovan was surprised that Claire knew that name. She warned them that if they surrendered and talked, she would guarantee their safety. However, if they refused, she would use force. Nakri, enraged, called Claire a Warslarn lapdog and immediately launched an attack. But Claire effortlessly destroyed Nakri's weapon. She told them that even with variant powers, they were no match for her fully equipped arsenal. Once again, she offered them a chance to surrender and return the stolen 100, warning that reinforcements would arrive soon. Moments later, it began to rain. Krovan turned to Nakri and Nezat, saying that luck was on their side. Claire arrived at Fritz's team location after receiving the distress signal. She demanded that the hunters surrender immediately and return the 100 they had stolen. Not long after, rain began to fall, and Krovan told Nezat and Nakri that luck would be on their side. He then signaled for them to prepare for an attack. Nezat activated Trace and created the same type of weapon Nakri usually used. Together, they launched disc-shaped projectiles at Claire. However, Claire quickly realized that their target was not her, but rather her weapon. She swiftly dodged and destroyed their attack. She counterattacked, but unfortunately, it was ineffective. Krovan smirked, stating that Claire's abilities weakened in the rain. As Claire attempted to strike Krovan again, he suddenly appeared right in front of her and mocked her for being too slow. Before she could react, Krovan struck her hard, sending her crashing to the ground. While she was immobilized, Krovan approached her and declared that he would put an end to her right then and there. He raised his sword, preparing to pierce her. Suddenly, the long chain was thrown at Krovan, wrapping tightly around him. He was caught off guard and struggled to free himself, but it was futile. The chain was everlasting, a weapon belonging to Erika. Claire felt relieved to see Erika had arrived in time to save her. Just then, Hayato rushed to Claire's side to check if she was alright. Meanwhile, Amiel had her weapon aimed at Nakri, and Claudia was holding Nezat at bay. Claire firmly stated that the hunters had no way out and ordered them to surrender. However, Krovan flatly refused. He was confident that he could escape any situation and nothing like this would make him give up. Using all his strength, he shattered Everlasting. At the same time, Nakri and Nezat managed to break free. Nezat activated Trace and launched an attack at Claudia. Krovan then charged at Claire, but Hayato stepped in to face him. Krovan immediately recognized Hayato as the one he had fought before. Their swords clashed as they struggled to overpower each other. Meanwhile, Amiel attacked Nakri with her weapon, forcing her back against a cliff. She successfully locked down both of Nakri's weapons, preventing her from moving. Amiel pointed out that Nakri was completely cornered. if she tried to free herself, she would become an easy target. Nakri, refusing to surrender, taunted Emil to strike her. Emil, angered by Nakri's words, released her weapon's hold on Nakri. However, before Nakri could counterattack, Emil struck her chest, sending her crashing into the cliff and knocking her unconscious. Seeing Nakri fall, Nezat immediately launched an assault on Emil with several duplicated weapons. Emil swiftly dodged and destroyed them, declaring that their fight was over. Just as Nezat attempted to activate Trace again, Emil aimed her weapon directly at her eye, preparing to strike. Emil warned Nezat that she no longer had the ability to mimic objects at a glance. She then threatened to make sure Nezat would never be able to copy anything with her eyes again. Nezat, now wary, asked if Emil was really going to blind her. Emil replied that it all depended on whether Nezat would continue using her eyes to harm others or to witness the beauty of the world. Meanwhile, as Krovan fought Hayato, he scoffed at the idea of a beautiful world, calling it nonsense. He insisted that all he and the others had ever known was suffering, that the strong ruled over the weak, creating a living hell. That was the world they had endured, and that was why they were determined to change it. Only after reshaping the world would true freedom exist. Krovan warned the Slayers not to stand in his way. Hayato continued to block Krovan's attacks. When Krovan, Nezat, and Nakri were children, they lived in the same place and were forced to work hard at all times. One day, while carrying a heavy load, Nezat accidentally dropped it. As Krovan rushed to help, he was immediately whipped by the guard overseeing them. They lived under constant torment and forced labor. One day, after finishing their meal, they managed to escape by climbing over the fence. They kept walking away from that place, but due to exhaustion, Nezat tripped and fell. Her right eye was severely injured from hitting a rock. Vitali stated that if left untreated, she would go blind, but she could give her a new light and the power to seize her freedom. Vitali then injected savage fluid into Nezat. As Krovan continued fighting, he asked if Hayato had any reason to win. Hayato responded that the power he possessed could make people smile. By protecting those smiles, he was also protecting the people he loved, all his friends and his younger sister. That was why he couldn't lose. Hayato immediately activated his full armament. He declared that one day, everyone would smile in a world where no one would suffer, and that was the reason he fought. Hayato then fired his attack at Krovan. Krovan claimed that Hayato's reason for fighting was impossible, but Hayato believed that anything could be achieved as long as there was a strong will. What he wanted was to create a world where people could smile without pain. Hayato's attack managed to knock Krovan down. Nezat was extremely worried about him. Krovan refused to give up and wanted to keep fighting. Emil realized that Krovan was being consumed by variant power, but Hayato was still able to defeat him. Claire urged Krovan to stop, warning that using variant power again would be extremely dangerous for his body. However, Krovan didn't care and was determined to continue fighting. Suddenly, they were all startled by the appearance of a flying savage in the sky. The savage fired its attack towards Squad B. The situation was dire, and the Slayers needed to act fast. Claire accidentally noticed a large number of Hundred gathered nearby. Krovan proposed a deal, a ceasefire. He would take down the savage on the condition that his core would belong to the Hunters. Krovan then activated his variant power. Hayato urged him not to use it again, but Krovan ignored him, stating that they needed the core. As Krovan swung his sword, he was blocked by a protective barrier. Claire noted that the savage was using complete protection. Krovan kept trying to break through the savage's protective layer, saying that if they obtained the core, the Hunters would gain true freedom. Nezat pleaded for him to stop because she was worried about him. Krovan couldn't understand why he couldn't break through the barrier. The savage then fired an attack at Krovan, knocking him down. Nezat cried out his name in panic. Fortunately, Hayato swiftly caught Krovan before he hit the ground. Krovan questioned why Hayato saved him. Hayato replied that his goal was to create a world where no one would be hurt. Krovan told him to forget about him and focus on helping Nezat and Nakri. Claire fired an attack at the savage, and shortly after, several other shots were also directed at it. Hayato wondered if another squad had joined the battle. Emil then asked Claire if attacking simultaneously could break through the protective barrier. Claire suggested they give it a try, saying that 3 was better than 2, and 4 was better than 3. Claire then ordered communication to be established with all long-range Slayers in the mountains so they could fire together. Unfortunately, their communication network was down. Claire suspected that the Hunters had jammed their signal and asked where the device blocking it was located. To take down the savage, they needed to contact the other squads. Claire then asked the Hunters for help in restoring the communication network. Without hesitation, Nezat activated a device on her wrist, and within moments the communication network was restored. Claire thanked Nezat. She immediately asked Erika to contact Little Garden. Charlotte wondered if the situation there was beyond expectations, and Claire requested that Charlotte analyze something for them. Charlotte relayed Lisa's response, stating that if all the long-range Slayer units attacked simultaneously, there was a possibility of breaking through the barrier. Claire quickly instructed all the Slayers to assist in defeating the Savage by launching a synchronized attack. The Slayers received the information, and Shumei confirmed that they had permission from headquarters. Claire then took command of the mission, assigning Hayato the task of finishing off the Savage. Just as Claire was about to give the order to fire, a massive energy buildup was detected from the Savage, signaling an impending attack. The Slayers launched their attacks one after another, but unfortunately, it was still not enough due to a lack of firepower. Charlotte speculated that some Slayers had hesitated because the Savage had struck first. Claire asked if there was any other way. Charlotte admitted that another option existed but was reluctant to suggest it. However, Lisa insisted on using this method. The solution was for Hayato to share his variant power with Claire, which meant they had to kiss. Emil was shocked upon hearing this and immediately objected, refusing to let it happen. Erika also disapproved, arguing that it would take away Claire's purity. Claire asked if this meant that the variant power would be injected into her body. Charlotte explained that there would be side effects, and while the effect was supposed to be temporary, the long-term impact on her body was unknown. Despite the risks, Claire insisted on going through with it, as defeating the Savage was their top priority. Emil was extremely opposed to it and didn't want it to happen. Charlotte left the decision to Hayato. Claire then asked if Hayato was reluctant to kiss her. Hayato quickly denied that he was hesitating. Suddenly, a high-energy reading was detected from the Savage, indicating an imminent attack. Emil, realizing the urgency of the situation, begrudgingly told Hayato and Claire to proceed. Before kissing her, Hayato apologized, but Claire reassured him that there was no need to apologize. As their lips met, Claire felt a warm sensation flow through her body. Soon, she felt an overwhelming surge of power. Wasting no time, Claire commanded all the Slayers to channel their strength. Shumei gave the final countdown as the Slayers' weapons finished charging. With everything in place, Claire gave the order to fire simultaneously. A concentrated barrage of attacks was directed toward the airborne Savage. After a prolonged assault, they successfully shattered the Savage's protective barrier. Hayato prepared himself for the final strike. He leaped toward the Savage, ensuring he maintained consciousness while using his full power. He was confident that he would not lose to himself. With a powerful swing, Hayato drove his sword into the Savage, sending it crashing into the lake below. However, he also fell into the lake, causing Emil to panic. Without hesitation, Emil dove into the water to search for him. After diving and scanning the depths, she finally found Hayato's unconscious body near the submerged Savage. She quickly grabbed him and swam toward the surface. Once they emerged, Emil pressed her lips against Hayato's in an attempt to revive him. The mission was finally over, and the injured Slayers were gradually recovering. All the Slayers were sent back to Little Garden. While on the aircraft, Erika had a conversation with Claire. Claire mentioned that it would be difficult for her to carry out the next mission, and that the rest would be handed over to another country. Erika then brought up the fact that Juder had allowed the 3 hunters to enter Little Garden. She couldn't understand Juder's reasoning. Why would he do something that could potentially threaten Little Garden? Claire also found it puzzling and wondered what her older brother was really planning. That night, Juder was enjoying the beautiful view of the full moon. Meanwhile, Emil was deeply worried about Hayato's condition, staying by his bedside the entire time. Charlotte reassured Emil that there was no need to worry because Hayato was fine. She explained that once the variant virus stabilized, Hayato would regain his full strength. Charlotte then left the student infirmary, asking Emil to continue watching over him. Emil gazed at Hayato and apologized for always pushing him too hard. She wished for him to wake up soon. Then she gently kissed his lips. Suddenly, Karan and Sakura entered the student infirmary. Sakura immediately asked what Emil was doing to Hayato. Emil quickly responded that she was just cleaning dust from Hayato's eyes. However, Sakura wasn't convinced since Hayato's eyes were closed the entire time. Karan, on the other hand, pointed out that from her perspective, it looked like Emil had just kissed Hayato. Emil hastily denied it, insisting that there was no way she and Hayato would kiss. Karan then smiled and said that it wouldn't happen anyway since both Emil and Hayato were supposedly boys. However, Sakura still found Emil suspicious. At that moment, Hayato slowly regained consciousness and called out to Karan and Emil. Tears welled up in Emil's eyes. She was beyond relieved that Hayato was finally awake. She greeted him warmly and told him that his mission was a success. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Vitaly realized that Krovan and the others had returned. However, she didn't care anymore. There was nothing left to stop her plans. That day, Ali and Wendy were attacked by the Savage. Ali was struck and lost consciousness. Wendy tried to fight back against the Savage, but after observing closely, she realized that it did not have a core. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed and Wendy immediately collapsed. It turned out that Vitaly was conducting experiments on her artificial Savage. That morning, Claire asked if Hayato and the others had enjoyed their vacation in Yamato. Hayato replied that their trip had been very enjoyable thanks to Claire, and he also mentioned that Karen was happy because she got the chance to meet everyone. Emil added that they had brought souvenirs, but to their surprise, Charlotte had already eaten the manju they had brought from Yamato. Claire commented that the manju was so delicious that she couldn't stop eating it. Hayato then asked Claire about the hunters. Claire explained that the hunters did not resist when they were detained in the secret facility, but they still refused to reveal any important information. The next day, Warslawn's intelligence team discovered Vitaly's laboratory, but unfortunately, she had already escaped. Charlotte tried to analyze the remaining research data, but the crucial information had been erased. Claire believed that security needed to be tightened while Vitaly was still on the loose, and the security for the Garden Festa would be handled by a combined force of slayers from various countries. Hayato asked what the Garden Festa was. Lydia explained that the Garden Festa was the anniversary celebration of Little Garden and was similar to a school festival. The event would be open to the public and would take place at Sabgria Port in United Liberia Kingdom. Sakura was confident that this year's Garden Festa would be spectacular, since she would be holding a concert as the main event, and she had even prepared a secret weapon. Hayato was curious, but Sakura kept it a secret for the time being. Erika mentioned that they had already entered the final stages of preparation and that all necessary equipment had arrived. Since they were expecting a large number of visitors, they had also ordered automatic cleaning robots. That day, Emil and the others went to the airport to pick up Claudia. As soon as she stepped off the plane, Claudia excitedly called out to Emil, saying how much she had missed her. Claudia even leaped from the aircraft door towards Emil in an attempt to kiss her, but Emil quickly held her back to avoid it. Annoyed, Emil questioned why Claudia had come back and was even more irritated that Claudia kept calling her Emilia. Wendy then stepped off the plane and Raitia was surprised to see her return. Fritz greeted her and asked about Ali's condition. Wendy said she had no idea since she had not seen her again after the mission ended. Fritz asked Wendy to help them again and Wendy happily agreed. That day, all the students were busy preparing for the Garden Festa, setting up booths, decorating, and holding meetings. In the afternoon, Hayato went to the hospital, as he usually did, to visit his younger sister. However, he suddenly noticed Sakura walking down the corridor. He followed her only to realize that she was not heading toward Karen's room. Instead, she entered another room, and upon stepping inside, she announced that she was ready to begin training. Hayato heard Karen's voice coming from inside the room, which made him immediately step in, surprising Sakura, Karen, and Charlotte. Karen asked why Hayato was there, and he apologized for startling them. He then asked what they were doing in that room. It turned out that Karen was going to sing at Sakura's concert, meaning Sakura's secret weapon was Karen. Hayato asked if Karen was sure she could handle it, especially considering her frail body. Sakura assured him that she had thought it through and asked Karen to show Hayato. Karen revealed a 100-name divine card. With 100, she would be able to jump and fly during the concert. Hayato was shocked that Karen could use 100. Charlotte explained that ever since she had been taking care of Karen, she had developed an interest in hundreds. Charlotte was also surprised to discover that Karen had a natural talent for them. Sakura mentioned that Karen had worked hard in her 100 training and her singing lessons. Karen wanted everyone to feel energized when they heard her song, just like how Sakura's songs had once given her strength. Hayato felt proud, but Karen humbly said she was still not good enough. Hayato reassured her that she could do it and that he fully supported her. Sakura then quickly shooed Hayato away, saying that only people who were training were allowed in that room. She even told him to look forward to the concert. Meanwhile, Wendy was observing the automatic cleaning robots as they worked in the corridor. That day marked the start of the Garden Festa, and as the Student Council President of Little Garden, Claire delivered a speech to open the second Garden Festa. The opening ceremony was spectacular, drawing a large crowd of visitors who entered by scanning their phones. The Slayers spread out to ensure the event's security. Some were stationed near the entrance, others patrolled around the stalls, and a few were even helping calm down a lost child who had been separated from their parents. Claudia couldn't believe she had to be on guard duty during the Garden Festa when all she really wanted was to spend time with Emil. She even acted out how she had planned to feed Emil a chocolate-covered banana and was frustrated that she couldn't do it. Meanwhile, Wendy was stationed near the entrance, keeping an eye on the incoming guests. Mei visited the room of the three hunters. She usually brought them food, and that day, she excitedly told them that there were plenty of delicious dishes available because of the garden festa. She even promised to bring them some chocolate-covered bananas for dessert before quickly leaving the room. Krovan sighed, questioning why Little Garden would throw a festival. He found it strange that the Slayers were treating them so kindly despite being their enemies. Nakri, however, remained suspicious. She was convinced that the Slayers were just pretending to be nice, especially since they had confiscated the hunters' hundreds. But Krovan pointed out that Nazet still had her ability through her eye. Without it, she wouldn't be able to see. Nazet held her right eye, recalling what Emil had told her during their fight the day before. She was still struggling to decide whether her eyes should be used to hurt others or to see the beauty of the world. Nakri warned her teammates not to be deceived, reminding them of Vitali's words that the Slayers aimed to take over the world. That afternoon, Hayato and Emil were finally able to take a break from their duties. They strolled through the garden festa, enjoying the lively atmosphere. Emil excitedly pointed out various places they could visit, such as a ninja cafe and a zombie restaurant. Hayato reminded her that their time was limited since they would be watching Sakura's concert soon. Without warning, Emil suddenly clung tightly to Hayato's arm. Hayato grew nervous, worried that people might be staring, but Emil begged him to just let her hold on for a little longer. Their moment was interrupted when Reiitia and Erika called out to them. Both of them were dressed in maid outfits. Erika panicked, immediately insisting that Hayato and Emil shouldn't get the wrong idea. She explained that Noah and Shumei had recruited them during their break, or rather, forced them into it. Emil, unable to resist, snapped a photo of Erika, saying she had never seen Erika like this before. She called it a rare moment and declared that she would show it to Claire. Erika desperately tried to grab Emil's phone, but Emil refused to hand it over. The two began chasing each other in a playful struggle over the phone. Erika pleaded with Emil to delete the picture, but Emil just grinned mischievously. Meanwhile, Reiitia invited Hayato and Emil to visit the maid cafe. As soon as Hayato stepped inside, he was greeted warmly by several maids, making him feel flustered. Emil was puzzled, wondering why Hayato's face had turned red. Suspicious, she teasingly asked if Hayato had a thing for maids. Then, with a smirk, she mused that maybe she should try wearing a dress herself. Erika jumped in, saying that Emil should go ahead and try it. Reiitia added that cross-dressing might be fun. However, Emil refused outright, insisting that men just didn't look good in maid outfits. Unfortunately for Emil, the maids at the cafe had other plans and pressured her into wearing one. Hayato leaned in and whispered to Erika, saying that this was bad. If Emil put on a maid outfit, her secret could be exposed. But Erika just smirked, asking Hayato if he wasn't at least a little curious. She was confident that Emil would look absolutely stunning in a maid outfit, imagining the combination of her long hair with a short skirt, creating an incredible look. Once the maids finished dressing Emil up, they all marveled at how convincingly feminine she looked. But that, without warning, Erika reached out and squeezed Emil's chest, noting that it didn't feel like a towel stuffed underneath. Grinning, she then offered Hayato a turn to squeeze as well. Hayato refused, but Noah and Shumei kept persuading him, and even the maids encouraged him to squeeze Emil's chest. In the end, Hayato gave in after Emil said she didn't mind. Hesitantly, he reached out his hand, convincing himself that the lumps on Emil's chest were just towels. Noah and Shumei suddenly pushed Hayato forward on purpose. He lost his balance and accidentally fell onto Emil, his hands landing right on her chest. Without meaning to, he ended up squeezing them, and to his surprise, Emil seemed to enjoy it. Hayato immediately realized that the feeling wasn't like a towel at all. Emil then confirmed it, saying that what he was touching was real. Meanwhile, Erika was still holding the two towels that were originally meant to stuff Emil's chest. Unexpectedly, the maids quickly took pictures of them. Erika excitedly said she wanted to send the photos to their friends, even joking that it could be turned into a doujin titled Haya and Ime. She added that if the photos spread, they could become the hottest gossip. Emil, however, didn't seem to mind. Erika then urged them to kiss. Without hesitation, Emil slightly parted her lips and closed her eyes. Hayato, flustered, asked Erika for help, but she and Reiitia just laughed, saying they had to get back to work, and then left the maid cafe. Even after they were gone, Emil still hoped Hayato would kiss her. Meanwhile, Jugal arrived at Garden Festa and said that the time had finally come. Hayato rushed to see Karen before her concert. He asked if she was sure about wearing that outfit for her performance. Karen, puzzled, asked why he was bringing it up. Hayato pointed out that it was a bit revealing. Karen teased him, calling him a flirt, and told him not to say weird things before her concert. Hayato insisted that he was only worried as her older brother. Karen admitted that his comment made her feel nervous, so she told him he had to take responsibility. In response, Hayato gently kissed her forehead to calm her down. Just then, Sakura and Soful entered, calling out to Karen. Sakura greeted Hayato, and he explained that he was there to support Karen. Soful informed Karen that she would be performing the second song, so she needed to be near the stage. Suddenly, Judal appeared. He mentioned that he had heard the famous diva Sakura was about to perform, so he came to show his support. He said it was an honor for Sakura to sing in Little Garden and wish her a great performance. Sakura thanked him. Then, Judal turned to Karen saying he was sure her song would be amazing and that he was looking forward to it. Karen thanked him and Judal soon left. The concert began and the audience erupted in cheers, filling the venue with excitement. After a moment, Sakura appeared on stage greeting the crowd. She activated her 100, which transformed her outfit and gave her wings on her back. She soared above the audience, flying around her fans. The crowd went wild, cheering at the stunning sight. Meanwhile, there was a shift change at the entrance. It was Wendy's turn to stand guard. Just then, Vidali entered effortlessly. Wendy even escorted Vidali inside the building. Once inside, Vidali told Wendy that her job was done. Moments later, Wendy collapsed, unconscious. Back at the concert, Sakura finished her song, and the audience applauded loudly in admiration. She then announced that for the next song, there would be a special guest. Emil was curious about who it could be, while Hayato pretended not to know. Sakura explained that this girl was the reason she fell in love with singing. Moments later, Karen stepped onto the stage. Emil was stunned to see her there. As Karen greeted the audience, she initially felt nervous, but Sakura quickly reassured her. Karen then introduced herself to the crowd. She shared that she had been sick since childhood, but meeting Sakura and listening to her songs gave her the strength to fight her illness. She expressed her dream of having her songs reach others who were suffering, just as Sakura's music had done for her. She hoped that everyone would find their own dreams as well. She called this concert the first step toward achieving hers. Karen activated her 100, leaving everyone in awe of her transformation. It was the first time Hayato had seen Karen's 100, which was called Divine Card. Now filled with confidence, Karen began to sing. Claire, Charlotte, and Mei watched her performance from the control room's monitor, while Judal looked on, clearly impressed. Meanwhile, Vidali had already made her way inside the building. She casually tossed her cigarette onto the floor, and as soon as it hit the ground, the automatic cleaning robot beeped, detecting it. Karen's performance at the Garden Festa was truly captivating, making the concert even more exciting. The audience was mesmerized by her song, and loud applause and cheers erupted after she finished singing. Emil turned to Hayato and said that Karen was amazing, and that her song was incredible. Hayato felt relieved that Karen had delivered such a great performance. After finishing her solo song, it was time for Sakura and Karen to perform a duet. The crowd cheered in anticipation of their spectacular performance. Judal also seemed to be enjoying the concert. As Sakura and Karen sang together, the audience absolutely loved it. Charlotte commented that their duet was incredibly sweet, and even Lisa was impressed. While everyone was enjoying Sakura and Karen's duet, Chris approached Claire and reported that a security staff member had fainted near the staff gate. Claire immediately asked for more details. It turned out that the person who fainted was Wendy, a support staff member from Liberia. There were no visible injuries on her body, but when she regained consciousness, she seemed to have lost her memory. She had no idea why she was there and was saying strange things like claiming that savages had no cores. Claire quickly ordered Chris to call Charlotte. Meanwhile, some visitors were enjoying the Silver Blitz robot performance, which was walking on a giant ball. The audience cheered enthusiastically. At the same time, Vidali stood on top of a building, saying that the time had come. It was Noah and Shumei's break time. Noah really wanted to watch Sakura's concert live, but Shumei suggested they watch the recording later instead. Suddenly, they were both startled when they saw a strange wasp-like creature that looked robotic. Erika asked if anyone in the area owned the robotic wasp, but no one claimed it. Reiitia concluded that it didn't belong to anyone, and Erika said they couldn't just let it be. They had to capture it. Erika immediately activated her 100 and launched Everlasting to catch the wasp. Her ability successfully ensnared the wasp, but just moments later it self-destructed. Reiitia pointed out that there was another robotic wasp near the electrical substation. Erika became extremely concerned that it might explode there. Without hesitation, Reiitia took action. She activated her 100 and launched her rocket knuckle attack at the wasp. The attack struck the wasp, causing it to explode. The crowd who witnessed the scene clapped in awe. However, the explosion triggered a blast at the electrical substation, cutting off power at the Garden Festa. The audience was shocked. Reiitia was baffled by how many robotic wasps there actually were. Erika suggested that they needed to find all of them before they could cause more explosions. She instructed Noah and Shumei to evacuate the visitors. Reports came in that robotic wasps had been spotted in both Area 4 and Area 6. The electrical substation in Block 42 was heavily damaged and could no longer supply power. Chris suggested switching to backup power and dispatching technicians immediately. As power outages spread across different areas, it became apparent that the robotic wasps were targeting the electrical substations. Lidi ordered all security teams to focus on eliminating the robotic wasps and assisting with the evacuation of civilians. She also decided to join in the efforts herself. Soon after, the backup power system was successfully activated. Claire was certain that this incident was no mere accident. Someone was behind it. She began to wonder where the mastermind was hiding. Suddenly, Noah and Shumei reported an emergency. While evacuating people, they discovered that the automated cleaning robots had transformed into robotic wasps. Claire was shocked. How could this have happened? She immediately ordered all automated cleaning robots to be shut down and for any still moving to be destroyed. Erika then reported that fragments of variable stones had been found in the remains of the exploded robotic wasps. Claire was now convinced that this was a planned attack against Little Garden. There was only one person who could have orchestrated this. Charlotte suspected that Vitaly was behind it, and Claire agreed. Claire then ordered Chris to announce an immediate suspension of the garden festa and initiate an evacuation order. Chris quickly carried out the instructions. Claire also requested that all students be informed about the emergency situation and assigned to assist in eliminating the robotic wasps and aiding in the evacuation. Despite the crisis, the concert continued as planned. However, Sofel suddenly informed Sakura that they were in a state of emergency. Sakura apologized to all the concert attendees because they had to stop the performance. She also informed them that there seemed to be some trouble outside. Suddenly, a tremor shook the area, causing the audience to panic. Sakura tried to calm them down, assuring them that they would be evacuated soon. She urged everyone to stay put and remain calm, as that was the best course of action. Sakura reassured them not to doubt her words. Charlotte displayed security footage showing Wendy and Vitaly together. She suspected that Vitaly had influenced Wendy to gain entry, especially since Garden Festa was open to the public, making infiltration easy. Charlotte also speculated that Vitaly was the one who had sent the cleaning robots, as such an act couldn't have been carried out by an ordinary person. Only a former Warslarn technologist could do it. Claire deduced that this meant Vitaly had responded to Judal's invitation. She then ordered an increase in security for the three hunters. Without delay, Claire contacted Hayato and Namio. Meanwhile, Erika was busy taking down the robotic wasps with her Everlasting. Raditya also attacked the robotic wasps with her power. Silver Blitz was deployed to eliminate the robotic wasps as well. Activating its 100, Silver Blitz grew larger and swiftly eradicated the robotic wasps. Noah and Shumei were occupied evacuating civilians to safety. Fritz fired at the robotic wasps flying in the air, and Lidi joined in, taking down several of them with her weapon. Lidi then instructed Fritz to assist in Area 7. Fritz jokingly remarked that Lidi, as the vice president, sure to love giving orders. The robotic wasps began damaging Little Garden's security system. Two guards stationed with Claudia reported the chaos caused by the robotic wasps, but Claudia didn't seem to care. She was more interested in eating chocolate bananas with Emil, blaming the situation on Hayato. Feeling frustrated about being assigned to guard duty, Claudia found it boring, and now strange robots were approaching Little Garden. Suddenly, she spotted an unidentified aircraft not far from their post. Claire quickly received a report about the foreign aircraft approaching Little Garden. She was puzzled as to why they had only just noticed it when it was already so close. The aircraft was now just 100 meters away from Little Garden, making interception impossible. Moments later, the aircraft exploded, and it was reported that a virus had infiltrated the air defense network. Certain blind spots on the radar were detected, likely caused by the robotic wasps damaging the security system.